Asian Americans should actually participate in the civil area.
We need to use the diversity to build our unity.
Doesn't matter what color, what ethnic, what profession.
And so running for president as a Chinese American to help further a vision of what we can be in this society.
Well, I'm proud to be here to help Asian American candidates.
When people learn what's going on, they go back to their communities and inform their constituents and friends about what's going on in Washington.
Their influence on policies of the United States as relates to Asians around the world.
Representation matters. AAPI vote matters.
Where every member of our community shows up, turns out, is active, and votes.
We need to get together and play the ball together.
Community of Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, to allow the world to know who we are, how do we stand together, what do we want to accomplish.
Speak with one voice. It's easy to come into agreement, with whatever is written.
And the power of we is very important.
We make small differences into big things.
These are the kind of things we should be running on.
You have to step up to the plate
and raise our voice as one.
We need to connect grassroots groups, organizations.
Come together, stay together, and work together.
Influence others, collaborate.
Join the power of we. We are coming together to make this program.
We Asians should stay united. Efforts will continue.
Working together, regardless of differences,
to unleash the power of we.
Together, the people with Asian heritage.
Power of we definitely need to include our younger generation.
Cook together, stay together as a family, as well as a community.
It's the spirit of teamwork. I believe working as a team, we can achieve more.
Together is better. Together is stronger. Bingwing TV is so honored to be part of we. The power of we.
Hello, I'm Erin Twazin, a tiny caster broadcasting to you from the heart of 7th West. I'm honored to welcome the 2020 National Civic Leadership Forum to Think Otherwise, Battling Gentrification Through Placekeeping. Moderated by Greg Yang of the lesser-known Quarterly, I'm happy to introduce the partners of 7th West, Donna, Pancho, and Kevin. Now to you, Craig.
Hey guys, so my name is Greg. I'm from a lesser known Mac. I spoke to these folks last year about a very interesting story about their place in West Oakland, running their business 7th West and really making an impact in the neighborhood. And today we're going to continue that conversation around this topic of gentrification, which I think is a really important topic, especially now. So you guys want to start off by just, defining a few key terms that are important to the conversation in terms of gentrification and placekeeping?
My name is Kevin Pelgone. I'm one of the partners here at 7th West. I think one of the key things we need to talk about today is the difference between placekeeping and placemaking and how that contributes to gentrification, what the difference is between those two practices.
My name is Pancho Chingwe, and I would say that is actually probably a place where people often confuse what is gentrification, whether they're empowering a community or not, or whether they're taking away from a community, right? Whereas I feel place making means you're making space for people that you've already pushed aside.
Hi, I'm Donna. Actually, pretty much exactly what Pancho says. Placekeeping is the difference of actually engaging community versus moving them aside. And that in itself is gentrification.
I guess to start off the conversation a bit, why do you guys think that these terms and these ideas are important right now, especially?
Well, it's been happening for quite some time. A lot of communities are being displaced from, their historical neighborhoods. 7th West is located in West Oakland, which is a historic Black neighborhood. It used to be the downtown Oakland of Oakland, California. But in years past, it was decimated due to many different reasons. And now that it's reemerging, one of our missions as folks that really subscribe to this thought of placekeeping versus placemaking is how do we work with the community as a social enterprise ourselves and as entrepreneurs, while engaging and empowering them to contribute to rebuilding this thing, not just having real estate developers dictate what goes into their neighborhood. That's kind of key to what we're doing here. And I'll let my partners talk a little bit more about how we're actually engaging in that activity. Much.
Yeah, I think what it really comes down to is, from what we've noticed, right, is that there doesn't tend to be a lot of community outreach when neighborhoods start to reemerge, right? Especially in West Oakland. Like when we first came on board and we started our 7th West project, a lot of people thought we were crazy, right? They're going, why would you invest in this community, right? And for those of you who don't know, 7th West is right across Acorn, which is considered a bad neighborhood, right? We didn't see it that way. What we saw was an opportunity to engage people and show them like, hey, you can come in here. Like this can be what your future looks like, right? And so we just started that process, talking to the leaders in the neighborhood, trying to get them to be engaged in the process and have them actually trust us as people that have good intentions that are coming in and actually want to not just come in and impose our views, but how do we work with the people that are there? And so that when you come in that this is your place too.
Yeah, that's, to piggyback off of that, it's really important that the engagement with the community absolutely happens, where people feel comfortable, not just creating safe spaces, but feeling comfortable that it's a place for them. It's a place where they can bring family, they can bring friends, they can bring work acquaintances, and still feel like it's a part of them, that they belong there, that it's a place that they want to consistently be, because it does take into consideration, activities or music or different types of cuisine or whatever else that we may come up with that permits them to, feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. And I guess coming into a neighborhood, right, as a business, right, as business owners, I guess that leads me into, my next thought, which is kind of around, as business owners in West Oakland or in America in general, right? I guess what kind of role do business owners particularly play in gentrification and these ideas around placekeeping, placemaking?
It's a really tough question, but I think from our perspective, because we can't speak on anybody else's, is that it actually comes down to a very simple idea for me. Doing good is good business. Doing good really means that if we have this economic opportunity ourselves, how can we take this opportunity to impact the neighborhood around us? Not just from like, hey, we have a place where you guys can have some food or celebrate a special occasion, but how can we, with our assets and our resources, plow more of that back into the folks that patronize us, or if not patronize us, live amongst us. And, we had established different programs over the past, and I think we'll let everybody speak a little bit on that. One of which is West Oakland's been a food desert for a while. There's literally maybe a small market nearby and a handful of like quick stop gas stations and some fast food joints. There isn't a lot of places that make food ready to go hot. So one of the initiatives we took on early from the onset of our business was to help incubate other small businesses by letting them utilize our kitchen and our marketing and our outreach to our community to pop up. So, Pancho, can you describe a little bit about the businesses that have come through in the past couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually been a fun program, right? And I think from my perspective, from community outreach, it's interesting. Like, we are trying to serve everybody, right? We've had Prairie Barbecue, right? A young chef who is blowing up right now, and just to have him be involved at 7th West and see his growth has been amazing, right? We've had Jeepney Guy, right? Local favorite, everybody loves the work that he does. He always wanted to brick and mortar, and I was like, okay, great, here's an opportunity to try and see what that feels like, Maserat, they came through a lot of people, and it's just interesting when people aren't often given those opportunities, how they react, right? Or like how a community reacts to seeing people that look like them being given those same opportunities, right? It's pride, right? Yeah.
And also, on top of that, with regards to the incubation program, having them recognize whether or not their business in itself in establishing a brick and mortar location is actually viable. It gave them that opportunity to recognize maybe I should just stay as a pop-up, or this has been great, I want to pursue this at another location. Do you guys have the resources to help us find a different location that might be standalone in our own? It gives them that flexibility. We work with people to help them with their finances and maybe their operations, the kitchen workflow, or, and that's something that we've done throughout our years of working in food and beverage. That's just another way that we can help grow their business, because not only does it benefit us, but it also allows a partner of ours, a community partner of ours, to really grow and potentially exceed what their initial expectations were for establishing at 7th West. So it's been really interesting, and it's been fun. We've worked with a lot of really amazing people. Hot Boys is another one. They recently actually came and popped up for about a week at our spot before they actually launched their own brick and mortar. They were already a very established brand. It was just an opportunity to have a location and exposure throughout Oakland. And GP Guy, he's a great friend of ours, and it was fantastic that we were able to work together to help open 7th West, and it was an opportunity for him to not only just do those pop-ups in Fort Mason or off-the-grid style pop-ups, but to have this brick and mortar location, increase his workforce, expand his brand and his reach among a demographic that we didn't really have before. Another community that he didn't really have before, because he was really primarily in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And so it's something that we have been wanting to do. We've done through in the past with our previous businesses and our own consulting with small businesses, and it's really important to us that we carry that on going forward, and helping and building other businesses with us, because if we grow, they grow, we all grow together as well, and it benefits our community as a whole.
I think that's a really great point, Donna, and that kind of gets me thinking about, I guess, the idea of the business, right? And a lot of times in America, businesses are set up to, I guess, seek profit over anything, right? And this has kind of been an idea that's built into our ecosystem, our economy. So as business owners in West Oakland, I guess, when did you kind of see that shift in mindset of business is not just about profit, but we have this social responsibility as well?
I think for us, our history in terms of the work that we've done has always lent itself to some social entrepreneurship, right? So part of that, for the three of us, the reason why we came together was because it was just our mission to seek profit as business owners, and entrepreneurs. We wanted to align that with our core values and principles of doing good for others, helping others, empowering others, because we've consulted for lots of other businesses prior to owning our own businesses. And on top of that, a lot of the programs that we seek out to do, I think naturally, we just wanted to really align community work with, entrepreneurship. And it's a very simple idea where if we have an economic opportunity, how do we kind of redistribute isn't the right word, but I think it's to how do you share wealth, right? And I think that speaks to our curation of our programs. Like we just talked about our pop-up incubation. One of the big things that we focus on is we believe in three core things in terms of community development, right? How do you maintain the locality, the legacy, and the posterity of a neighborhood, right? So those three things, you have to really do programs that speak to that. I don't think most business owners or even big corporations that have a corporate social responsibility program even go that deep. We, in essence, think that it's very important that we align all these different programs together. So one of the big programs I want to talk about, several of these, is our event curation program and our workforce development program. So, Ponch, can you talk about our employment program at Southwest?
Yeah, so it was interesting about when we first opened up. I was doing some community outreach, and I was at West Oakland Youth Center, and I ran into this lovely lady, right? And we were just talking, and I was like, hey, we just opened up this place. And she looks at me and she's like, what are you guys looking for? Are you guys looking for employees? I was like, yeah, we're always looking for people. And she looks at me and she says, well, we're actually in the process of trying to get some people that were incarcerated jobs. And are you interested? Like, we didn't even hesitate, right? Because everybody deserves an opportunity, right? And so that just has been part of the things that we do when it comes to hiring, right? How do we give people that have been incarcerated second chances, right? And give them a place where they feel welcome, they feel respected, and they're not being judged for any past mistakes that they've made, right? How do we give them those second opportunities?
And also your youth program work that you've done by training local youth in how to, from janitorial to operations to
building
to building tables,
kitchen.
To kitchen work, and I think it's really important that, we kind of run the gambit of those types of programs because the youth is also a part of our community. And, these are things that a lot of people don't necessarily know about 7th West, that we've done this. It's not something that we, kind of signal to everyone, but it is really important to us that we maintain these types of programs because our community is important to us, and it does benefit 7th West. It benefits us immensely, and the people that we've had come through our program, it's how would you say that Michael has benefited from this program?
Let's just say that most of the folks that have come and work for us, our retention is very high. I think in our entire history, we've maybe had 2 employees and they just moved on to better things. But for the most part, a lot of the folks that came through our programs, which mind you, at the time, it's not like we consciously thought about it, but someone just brought it up, we're like, yeah, of course, why wouldn't we do that? And when we did take that on, we found that most of the folks that we've been working with are some of the most productive, respectful, and it's amazing people to work with. And that's something that we thoroughly enjoyed about our experiences running these programs so far, and we want to continue it. Workforce development to us is very interesting in that we actually find that the folks that people don't necessarily want to hire
are the best folks to work with.
They're great.
Isn't that
employees.
funny? Isn't that the funniest thing?
And it does require some time and the ability to educate and to let them know and be firm and what the processes are and I think it's mutually beneficial. Aside from just being able to collect a paycheck where maybe you might have been passed along from somebody else, but to gain a skill set that you might not necessarily have, whether it's simply as engaging with other staff members or learning a new skill, and it's been a really great program, and it's something that we've continued with, and there are other programs that we're going to be onboarding that we feel like will be really beneficial for our community and our staff as well.
And I did mention earlier that we also have an event program. Yeah. So one of the things that I really want to tout about this is a lot of folks want to be inclusive, right? There's inclusivity in intention and there's inclusivity in practice. And I think what we do at 7th West is that inclusivity doesn't just mean like, yeah, sure, everyone's welcome to kind of do what it is that you'd like as long as it's safe for everybody involved. Access is key. A lot of places say that, but they make it inaccessible because of the cost to host your celebration or your event. So prior to COVID-19 and the pandemic, 7th West was known for curating some of the most diverse and unique events from various communities in Oakland. Primarily, POC and LGBTQ plus events, and a lot of cultural celebrations, because a lot of venues around the Bay Area are just generally expensive to work with. We structured our infrastructure so that it was cost effective. We wanted to be able to host, Holi, which is an Indian holiday, which had lots of people and lots of logistical issues, there's color being strewn around everywhere, to a simple vinyl night, because, the Bay Area is known for some dope DJs, they're throwing some of the biggest, LGBTQ plus events that the Bay has to offer, because a lot of folks can't either accommodate due to size or accommodate because of cost. And yeah, that's a really important part of what makes our business, and our perspective and entrepreneurship and our responsibility to the community is that, yeah, we don't just talk about it, we actually do it. Virtual signaling to us that doesn't matter unless you actually do the work, you know what I mean? And invest in programs that enable inclusivity. You can't intentionally, you can be inclusive. I can feel like I'm inclusive, but that's not the case for most people. And Pancho brought the first group of promoters to 7th West, and they were quite diverse, and he can talk a little bit more about that. And Donna is the head of operations, so she actually, does most of the logistical work, and she can talk to you about how diverse and unique that those challenges have been, but also very, very amazing to work with.
I also want to say that not only we've designed it to be cost effective, but we've also designed it where we can actually rev share with some of these organizations. With a lot of our nonprofit work that we've done with, I'm terrible with names, but you guys know all the names.
70 nonprofits in the first year, $150,000 in
donations for, just within our first year, because again, it is important to us that our community feels welcomed and that they can actually promote the programs and maybe some of the services that they're wanting to bring forth to the community. And we're still actively working with several of them. Sometimes they just call us up and say, hey, we can't find a space. We need to do our team meeting. Great, no worries. We're not open today, but I can open up the space for you and you guys can meet. And that's the type of way that we kind of extend ourselves to our community, because it is important to us. They are family in a sense, because they're home and how they've promoted some of their nonprofits or some of their organizations is at 7th West. And so why not? It doesn't, it takes, maybe 15 minutes out of my day to be there on site with them while they meet. And most of them we absolutely trust, so I can just let them, lock up. it's really great. And that's how it should be. There should be that mutually, acceptable, communication and trust. And that's how you really build that community piece, is showing them that trust them.
No, I think probably one of my favorite things from the first year when we opened up is we get emails, people are like, hey, I'm interested in looking at your venue, and people would come in, and if it's nonprofit schools, educators, right? They would come in and they would walk in, they would see the space, show them around, and they have this look on their face like, they can't afford this, right? And I was just like, okay, we'll do the thing. And they're like, great. I was like, what days are you looking at? I'm like, great, let's see if it works out on our calendar. And then all of a sudden the money question comes up. They go, how much is this? We're like, no, it's yours. Like, just take it. And I cannot tell you how many times people's jaws just dropped every single time, right? And they're like, we are here for you, right? It's like, this is space, like, sure, like, we're here, but it's your space as well, You got to give back to the community in that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that kind of reminds me a lot of when I talked to you guys, a year ago for the Lesser Known magazine. I was kind of asking you guys about your story, and a big thing that kind of stuck with me was, when I Google 7th West, right, it comes up as like a bar, venue, music venue space, right? But I guess what I learned speaking to each of you is it's really a community space, right? It's not a space just for hosting stuff, but a space for the people within the neighborhood. And I guess leading to my next question about, with this COVID-19 pandemic, right? A lot of people within the neighborhoods were affected. They lost their jobs. A lot of businesses had to adapt. Could you speak a bit about how 7th West adapted during this time, and what kinds of solutions you guys came up for the community as well?
It took us, a lot of people were really eager for us to open, and we decided to take some time. It took us about 3.5, almost 4 months to really get everything together so that we could open in this kind of new world. After multiple webinars and reading on how we can COVID and what risks that we would take if by opening. We sat and kind of developed our own COVID safety protocols, because to be honest with you, there are none. Unfortunately, it's kind of the wild, wild west. And so I took a combination of, I come from a risk management world where I'm a little bit more conservative in that piece, where I'm probably a little over the top with regards to making sure that we're not liable for things or at risk for certain things. And we developed a COVID safety protocol that allowed us to pivot our business to completely contactless. We do offer a location where people can pay with cash, but we encourage everybody to be as contactless as possible. In addition to that, we set up a program to participate in contact tracing. And it also just gives another level to our patrons that we're taking this seriously. It's a little alarming for some folks because we do take temperatures. We do, request that they accept hand sanitizers before coming. We do have like a full program that we've implemented that, takes a little longer to get in. It's not like, hey, how you doing? Come on in, take a seat. Pancho can attest to this. He's the one that, is working with customers initially when they come into the space. And, we wanted to make that a priority over opening and instantaneously making money. We've saw the challenges that other businesses were having with onboarding to go and takeout and delivery, and it just wasn't something that we could do because, frankly, we weren't running our kitchen at that point. Yeah. We had another pop-up in there that was running the kitchen, and with COVID, they couldn't sustain. And then we had to completely pivot. I mean, Kevin is actually in the kitchen. He created a really fantastic menu based on some family recipes, and we are actively operating. So when you come to 7th West, you know, if you pop your head in the kitchen, which I don't recommend, but you'll see Kevin on the line, you'll see Poncho up front working, and you'll see me running the operations with our staff. So you'll see me delivering a drink to you, or, you know, calling out your name for you to come pick up your food. And, you know, we're still trying to make it personable in that piece, but monitoring and maintaining those rules of safety is in the forefront. And, you know, we've kind of drilled it into our staff that that's how it has to be. And so we've completely pivoted, and it's been a learning process, but we found it to be incredibly successful, and it gives that peace of mind to our customers, which to me is probably one of the most important, because, you know, people feel that it's dangerous to go out and be exposed. And so we've come up with an ideal program that allows for people to come in and feel safe and know that it is a priority of ours.
Yeah, people love it, actually.
Yeah.
So many times when people come in, they go, we love that you're doing this. We know we're coming somewhere that they actually care about us, and it's not just about the money.
Yeah. No, and I definitely felt that, you know, coming to 7th West when you guys had those protocols in place. And even though I had to go through these like safety protocols, like once I got into 7th West, it still felt like that same vibe and energy that you guys always had, right?
Just safer.
Safer.
But a little more steps.
Yeah.
A little more steps, yeah. And wearing masks when you're not eating or drinking.
Yeah.
Well, Nas is actually being pretty humble too. Like the other part of this is that the city has reached out, you know, on several occasions. We've actually been sharing a lot of our COVID protocols because everybody needs it, you know, everybody needs it. And so it's been a conversation with the city. They're like, well, how are you guys doing it, right? And what is the process? And there's an ongoing conversation with them because people are trying to figure it out. And currently, you know, we just have the most robust system around when it comes to that.
Yeah, and it's not anything that is too labor intensive. Yes, it is, just like with anything else, because it's a new process flow for any business, but it's something that just, you know, it's needed and it's absolutely necessary. And, you know, we love the fact that, you know, we can share this with other people to ensure that they're doing the same. Because right now, there's only 3 things that people are really doing and making their customers do is wear a mask, socially distance, 6 feet apart, and have as much hand sanitizer as you want. And they feel that's enough. And unfortunately, for some businesses, it might be the only thing that they can do because they're limited with, you know, funds. And we all know that we've all been kind of struggling with funds these days, especially during this pandemic. But it's an actually easy program to implement. It's just there are multiple steps, and, you know, we're excited about potentially getting this to as many people as possible so that they can own and operate and have that sense of comfort that they're doing something that their customers actually want, you know, instead of just, you know, like making excuses or, you know, not necessarily taking it that next step, because I think their businesses will benefit by recognizing that the customers actually want this. They want to feel safe. They want that ability to know that somebody's actually looking out for them, not just taking their money.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to add a little bit. Don't be deterred, what she said. It's just a lot of these processes are automated.
Yes.
It can be easily automated. And I think it'll be very interesting as we help other folks do this. There is another component to this. There is, yes, Donna has created the protocols for a singular space. One of the things that Poncho's mentioned is working with the city of Oakland. I've been working with the city of San Francisco on my end, and we actually launched a successful event called Sunday Streets. It's in partnership with Livable Cities in San Francisco and Cultivate Labs. And it's a weekly kind of street activation. A lot of businesses are hurting, and COVID protocols should just not just be isolated to an individual business, but how do you get commercial corridors activated again? And a lot of that has to do with permitting for the health department, Department of Transportation, ABC, Alcohol Beverage Commission, for those that don't know what ABC is. And the coordination with the merchants, because a lot of people are scared. Like, okay, well, I'm a bar or I'm a retail store. I've never had to bust tables, not like that. I have to put signage up. What does it mean for me I don't serve food? How can I sell alcohol? There's a lot of these questions that people have. But because we've worked with different organizations and different ways of reactivating commercial districts by implementing our COVID protocols, I think that's something that we've done to help also extend past beyond us. I mean, for the most part, I actually feel that we're happy to continue to do this outside of our current locale. We want to provide this for as many folks as possible, because as small business owners, man, it hurts.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to see your family business that you've owned for 20, 30, 40, multiple generations go because of pandemic and you just didn't know the protocols around it.
Or what's worse, being shut down because of a COVID case within your own space, and that's very real for a lot of business owners. And so, these safety protocols will help to protect you as well as the guests. And, it's very specific, and, it works with Alameda County Health Department and with regards to the contact tracing. So it's something that, we feel, should be implemented, and it's great that we've been able to work with a few, but I think that with working with the city, it'll allow us to do more and to get it on people's radar that, this is important.
Yeah. And we're gonna do a Q&A session for anyone that has questions for the 7th West people. My last question, I guess, is focused around something you mentioned, Donna, about, coming up with these solutions and, for example, coming up with these health protocols, right? A lot of it was centered around the fact that there was no solutions out there, right? At this time when everything shut down, a lot of businesses were hurting. Can you speak a bit about making these solutions shareable to other businesses in the neighborhood, and what's the motivation behind that, and how does that benefit 7th West, but also the community around?
Yeah. So I want to speak to the motivation firstly, and the motivation is that we are seeing other businesses. 400 restaurants in San Francisco have closed down. We're seeing even in our own neighborhoods that businesses are shuttering left and right, and competition is good. Having other businesses where people can go and patronize is good for everybody. And the motivation is to be able to share that and ensure that our community thrives, because it's not necessarily fun to go to the same place every time because there's no other places to go, and we want to be good community partners. And by being able to share this with even our direct competitors, I'm happy to do so. But it was a process, and as I mentioned earlier, I come from a risk management perspective as it relates to real estate, and this is something that I have to do in my daily work with regards to ensuring that our communities and our staffing at our communities are safe. And so I kind of combined the two with regards to our operations and knowing what other challenges that our community is facing, specifically our community of small businesses and entrepreneurs around us. I had that in mind initially. Obviously, I had us in mind in ensuring that we could actually reopen, but in a way that I felt comfortable, because I have family that I don't want to put at risk. We all have significant others or family members that we don't want to put at risk, and so how can we take it to that level where we feel comfortable going home and living a relatively normal life? But for me, I think it's important that we share this for within our community and within the businesses of our community overall, because it's worked. We get a lot of positive feedback from our customers, and they tell us about the stories of when they go to other places, and I'm like, please connect me to them. I'd love to be able to help them with their processes. We do have a little booklet of onboarding and how to implement it within your own business, and we're willing to do that. I'd love to be able to offer our entire COVID safety protocols for free to our local restaurants and bars and retailers, because it's, people still want to go out. They're still going to go out. Let's make it as safe as possible.
Yeah.
And we know we live in this community, right? It's not like,
We see it.
Sorry. And it's just, we don't want places to shut down. Nobody wants that, right? I mean, we know the struggle, right? And if our goal is, placekeeping, right? And if this is a way to do that, then it's not just like, it's a responsibility in a way, right?
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a no-brainer. It's something that we, as good community partners, should do.
Yeah.
And as such, one of the things that we wanted to actually announce today was us launching our consultancy called Otherwise. It's made up of us and a bunch of different entrepreneurs within the community that are trying to provide solutions around economic development and placekeeping for other neighborhoods all around Oakland and whoever's willing to work with us, And I think that's important to say because besides the COVID protocols that Donna has been very much willing to give to our neighbors here in Oakland, we'll post that on our website eventually so other folks can access that. But from our local perspective, with our focus on locality, one of the new programs that we also wanted to mention was we're launching a community kitchen for 7th West. That's a program by Otherwise. And, our goal is just to feed 100 to 150 local Oakland folks, primarily the homeless encampments around 7th West. Because, it's already tough as it is with folks losing unemployment. It's already tough as it is being homeless to begin with. And a lot of nonprofits and food banks are struggling to have supplies. We were fortunate enough to put this program together with the support of our food partner, Amara Foods, based out of Richmond, California. We'll be providing a lot of the supplies. And a community of folks that we posted about our pilot just a week ago, and we've already had dozens of responses from community members who want to volunteer to help produce and distribute some of the food to our local community. Just to cap that, from a social entrepreneurship perspective, we really do take everything very seriously. Our motivations and our intentions around everything is built around the values and principles about if we have this economic opportunity, how do we share it and create social impact for others? And that is kind of the crux for 7th West, which is actually an Otherwise project. And Otherwise is the arm of our organization where we can take the things that we can't necessarily just do at 7th West and bring it to other folks within our community.
And I guess for those watching, where can they learn more about Otherwise and some of these solutions we talked about?
You can come visit us at www.otherwise.how because you have to think otherwise. There's always a different solution for something. If you'd like to send us an email, you can email us at think@otherwise.how. And yeah, just hit us up over there.
Or you can come visit us at 7th West.
Yeah.
We're always there.
We're always there.
Day. Monday through Sunday, you will see the three of us there, hands down.
Yeah, so we're gonna open up to Q&A now. I guess, how do we get the question up? Oh,
that's a really tiny question.
Here we go.
A little bigger.
All right. So the question is, how do we explain gentrification to those who do not understand the social justice implications, those who believe they have benefited?
So the gentrifiers. Correct.
The gentrifiers.
The second question, I see. Actually, we talked about this as a team, numerous times, but to us, gentrification is, let's say you take a re-emerging community and neighborhood, and there's literally no place. You don't involve them. You do not involve them in the redevelopment of that community. And that's a major issue, because that's what happens when you take historic neighborhoods and just change it over into the image of what the new population thinks it should be, without addressing the needs of those that have been there for so long.
And let's talk about who that new population is. That new population is really the developers that want to create and build these beautiful communities, but not only are they not getting the existing community involved, they're not bringing them to the table. And getting them involved is one thing, but bringing them to the table, asking them what they want, and actually doing it is a whole nother world. And not very many companies do this. And we've been very fortunate with Panoramic Interests that they actually say what they do, you know, and they believe in us. They asked us what we wanted, they asked what the community wanted, and they're bringing it, you know. And I think that, you know, from that perspective, it's important.
Sorry, I got you.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I can add to that is that, yeah, right, it's definitely from the perspective of what we have seen, right, and the types of questions that we've been asked, right, in terms when it comes to like gentrification, right. It's this thing with, like, it's not like these neighborhoods that are re-emerging that they don't want nice things, right? That's not it. They just want to be part of the conversation, right? And when you make people part of that conversation, right, you empower those communities, right? And a big part of what we're trying to do with Otherwise is just to empower communities. Like, you actually have a say in how your neighborhoods are built. Like, the things that you go to, the things that you're interested in, they can be reflected in your environment around you.
You want to talk about a little bit some practical steps and how to do that, though?
Oh, yes, talk to your community. I think that's the first part of placekeeping.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important facet is just, we now live in a time where we live on our mobile devices, or virtually half the time. You walk by most people not even acknowledging them. That needs to change. And folks that are actively working towards placekeeping and those particular practice areas around placekeeping, the heart of it is engaging with your community, talking to folks like, hey, what do you need? As a senior living in this community, what do you need? As a youth, what do you need? Because everyone has different needs, and if you don't address that to begin with, then there's not much to talk about. You just have to talk to each other.
Yeah.
There was another question earlier about folks who have been participating in those that have benefited from gentrification. So some of that's business owners. Some of that could be folks that have bought properties and have moved in since then, right? With property values increasing in gentrifying neighborhoods. I think, in truth, intentions are great. I'm going to say this again. Intentions are great. But if your values and principles and the applications of those values and principles don't align truly with your intentions don't really mean anything. Yeah. So those that have benefited from gentrification, really reconsider why you decided to move your business in there, why you decided to move into a particular neighborhood. If you were just going to go there because you wanted to, sure, I intend to do good for the community by, I don't know, selling a bunch of flowers if I was a flower shop. Well, cool, but how does that really impact your neighbors? Or are you just pricing them out? You know, that's something you really need to think about. There's a million questions that we can talk about here in terms of social justice and economic injustices, but that's a longer conversation.
So it looks like one of the questions is some practical steps, you know, as Kevin said, engaging with your community. What does that look like? Creating a space where they can come and talk about certain aspects of what it would look like, what a development would look like, what a community forum. We know quite a few people that actively do that on a regular basis, like that way that they can take their problems, their issues, whether it's as simple as a street closure or, you know, a red curb, you know, being able to have a place for people to congregate and talk about those things and what their needs are, surveying them, maybe knocking on some doors, or bringing them in and you know, engaging some of the businesses to say, hey, bring your community in, talk to them, ask them what it is that they want. Do you like certain types of food? Great, this is fantastic. I've heard this from, you know, 25 different people, 10 of them happen to be our regulars. So you know what? I'm gonna change my menu up because this is what my community wants,
Yeah.
And I think, just steps like that, we're actually having conversation and making those changes are great ways for placekeeping, or the practice of placekeeping.
And I think the thing that's also really important in all of this is that placekeeping is not always comfortable, right? It's just not, right? Because you are basically trying to change a way of operation that's existed for a long time.
Yeah.
We've had, as I'm telling you right now, we've had so many uncomfortable conversations with people that have come up to us, right? But the thing that we always do is that we sit down and we listen, right? What is exactly the issue at hand here? And it's like, if there's an issue, like how do we address it, right? And how do we engage you as a community partner to make you feel like you're being heard, right? And I think a lot of people just think that it's work, right? And you have to want to do it, right? And you have to be willing to be uncomfortable, because that's what it just takes.
And more so, listening. You gotta listen. You gotta listen because they're speaking their truth, and it's an opportunity for you to hear them out.
No, definitely. It looks like we have one more question here. In a time with so much civil unrest, where do each of you find hope in this all?
Yeah, that's a great question.
That's a great question.
Wow. Wow.
I think now more than any time I've ever seen in my entire life, my existence, have people been more active in the political process. That gives me some courage and hope. And I hope that folks can understand that your vote and your participation, your engagement within your community isn't just it isn't nothing. It is substantial. Despite what up and down your ballots, it's not just the president, governor, the senator, it's your local assembly person, it's your local councilman, woman, you know what I mean? So that gives me hope.
Yeah, that's actually it's a good question. I think for me, where I'm finding hope in all of this is the conversation that's happening, And in a moment where there is unrest, right, there's also opportunity for growth, right? You actually have a chance to look in the mirror and see where you truly stand, right? When everything is great or perfect, whatever it is, right, you don't actually see that other people are suffering, right? It actually gives you a moment to sit there and how am I participating in my communities? I've had conversations with so many people that are like, I donate, but is that enough? Should I be out there doing something else, right? And it's a truth that everybody has to find for themselves. Like, how do you actually want to be existing right now? But the fact that people are actually even having those conversations and being able to self-reflect in those ways, in ways that I would never imagine possible, right? The fact that people are doing that right now, that's where I find my hope in all of this.
Yeah, I would say where I find my hope in all of this is among the people. Not just you guys, but our friends, our customers, our staff. Everybody wants to be hopeful. Everybody wants to see, and actually, in Oakland in general, is very politically charged in itself. But the fact that people are willing to come to the table and actually speak on it is where it's hopeful. Because if you talk about it, there's a potential that it can actually come to life. That. My favorite saying among our family is that a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And so, if you don't ask or if you don't talk, if you don't express yourself, then, there's potentially to get nothing. But for me, we've had a lot of people that have, reached out to us, expressed themselves, asked us for an opportunity for, creating a space to express themselves. And that to me, that I see people wanting to do that, and that gives me hope. And I hope that, 7th West can continue to be a place where that can happen.
Definitely. I think we talked a lot about a lot of things today, right? Whether it's gentrification, placekeeping, placemaking, all these terms, and then as well as some solutions. I guess before we kind of sign off, do you guys have any last thoughts or things you want to talk about?
I think me personally, go out to the ballots in November, please. But also, if you're ever in Oakland, please come visit us at 7th West. If you're ever interested in working with folks that can help, work with you in your particular neighborhood or your small business or your organization or your nonprofit, please hit us up at think@otherwise.how.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I can think of is just wherever you're at in the world, just go out, engage in your community, see something different, and that's also another way to help in placekeeping.
And for my part, I want to invite any other bar, restaurant, or retailer or small business entrepreneur. If you are in need of a COVID safety protocol, we can help you. And we will give it to you for free. So reach out to us otherwise, or come visit us at 7th West, and we'd love to have a conversation.
All right. Thanks so much, guys, for talking about all this stuff with me. And thank you, everyone, for watching. This is from TinyCast Co-Studio.
Yay, TinyCast! Are we done? Is it over?